The politics of our nation.
They have that right to protest. There is no need to go there and now start shooting.
The current affairs of our state.
Everywhere we have gone to, the dirt of Abuja is not on the surface.
All at your fingertips on your Let's Talk station.
95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know? Your dose of facts we bet you never knew. Right here.
95.1 Nigeria Info.
The return of Nigeria's original anthem, Nigeria, We Hail Thee, our own dear native land. These were the very first words sung by Nigerians on October 1st, 1960, the anthem that welcomed our independence. Originally composed by Frances Benda, Lillian Jean Williams, Nigeria, We Hail Thee was the country's first national anthem. It praised unity, loyalty, and love for the motherland. Though in words shaped by colonial-era English, in 1978, it was replaced by Arise, O Compatriots, a more locally sourced anthem crafted by Nigerian citizens through a national competition. That anthem stood for over 4 decades. However, in May 2024, history took a dramatic turn as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed a bill passed by the National Assembly officially reverting Nigerians' anthem to Nigeria, We Hail Thee. Supporters called it a return to the nation's roots. Critics questioned the symbolism and the timing. But one thing is clear, the anthem is more than a melody. It is a reflection of our identity, our politics, and our evolving story. As we sing those old familiar lines once again, we're not just looking back, we are deciding what kind of country we want to be moving forward. Nigeria, we hail thee.
Another piece of the puzzle now revealed. Keep questioning, keep learning, keep listening. Only on Nigeria Info.
95.1 Nigeria Info. The facts are glaring. It's point blank.
It's better to have little that there's blessings of God, that you have much more that there's no blessings of God.
But people need to see, know, and hear.
When you return that money, you hear the message. Whatever is not yours, even if you kill yourself, it will not come. That's my opinion.
So do share the facts on Hard Fact. Hard Fact. Hard Fact. 3 to 6 p.m. Live on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
The Big Three. There's always something big happening in Nigeria. Something that gets people talking at home, in their offices, on the road, in the markets. On the Big Three, we don't just bring you the headlines, we go beyond them. Every weekday, Monday to Thursday, join us as we critically review the 3 biggest stories driving conversations across Nigeria. From politics to policy, economy to everyday life. If Nigeria is talking about it, you'll find it on the Big Three. The Big Three, more than the headlines. It's where the conversation lives. Only on Nigeria Info 95.1 FM. The Big Three.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Good afternoon and welcome to Hard Facts, the pre-weekend edition, I'd like to call it that, in anticipation of the weekend. It's 3:14 p.m. date, just in case you're not sure, it's the 12th of February 2026, and it's good to be here with you as always, taking you on all the conversations, making the headlines, starting with the Big Three. I've got a guest who's lined up for me, or lined up for us, rather, going to help us break into some of the conversations, break it down, analyze it, and make it make sense as much as we can. We're going to be doing that together from now up until 4:30. His name is Mr. Emmanuel Ozoemena. He's a policy consultant. And from discussions we were having earlier on before the mic came on, he's practically family. Good to have you here, sir. Welcome to the show. Yes, sir. How have you been? Happy New Year. It's first time this year.
Should be Happy New Year.
Yes.
Last we saw was last year.
Yes, it was.
And we are how many days into the new year?
It's 2 months and counting. Are we? A month? We're in the second month. So
a month and a half.
Yes, pretty much. I feel like the year is flying by.
Yeah, essentially, especially when you have an election year coming in. I'm sure by next year at about this time, we should be at a few weeks to the election.
Indeed.
You know.
And I think that's one thing that perhaps we haven't recognized as far as the Electoral Amendment Bill is concerned. When the earlier provisions came out before the bill was eventually passed, there were moves to make the elections earlier, to have them in 2026. So I know there's a lot of clamor around the Election Amendment Bill, and especially concerning the clause around conditional electronic transmission of results. But perhaps we should be saying it's a good thing they didn't try and make the elections earlier on.
No, it wasn't to make it earlier.
Yeah?
Because I followed it, keenly.
Okay.
It was actually to lessen the time for the timetable. The timetable as at today is 365. Meaning that by now, at about next week, INEC should have released the calendar of events for the 2027 elections. As at if you go by the Electoral Act 2022, you need a full 1 year. So what the amendment now is trying to do is to shorten it to make it 180 days, which is 6 months ahead of the election. So, but I think 1 year is okay in terms of scrutiny, in terms of accountability, and in terms of the people to understand, in terms of even mobilizing Nigerians to vote. Because from records, each election you have lesser number of people who turn up, registered voters who turn up to vote. I mean, the last one was less than 30%. So you need more time to sensitize people. You need more time to get people to get interested in voting. But I don't know what this current 10th National Assembly intends to do and what informs shortening the time. If you shorten the time, you aren't going to have a robust campaign, a robust engagement, and a robust mobilization of voters.
Well, I can confirm two things. One is that the timing was reduced from 360 to 180 days for the calendar, the INEC calendar.
Yeah.
It was reduced in the current bill as passed.
Yeah.
And I can also confirm, at least as at 31st of October 2025, one of the provisions or one of the proposed provisions for this bill was that they would hold the presidential and governorship elections in November of 2026. But the bill as passed did not include that clause.
Yeah, well, the point is that that means you also need to go change some things because for handover, it must happen on May 29th, 2027. So if you elect if you do the election and people get elected, except you are looking at litigations, post-elections.
That was exactly what they were looking at.
So that you're able to sort it out
before,
swearing in and all that. But let's see how it goes. Nigeria, from what had happened in fact, yesterday in the Senate over the automatic or mandatory transmission of election results. Yeah, that shows we are getting there in terms of engagement, in terms of trying to deepen democracy.
To some extent.
Yeah.
And yes, the initial proposal for earlier elections was so that all matters of litigation can be concluded before May 29. But anyway, that is an aside. That's not even part of our story. I was just saying that sometimes, I have a tendency to look at some of these headlines and, we're just looking for that thing that we're sure is going to, make us get into an uproar and then we're, quarreling and crying and all of that. There are some of the things that were not included that we should be thanking them for, but that's an aside. Let's get a move on. Again, it's the big three. And our first story today sort of picks up from where we left off yesterday. I talked about the United States House of Representatives seeking to have the U.S. Secretary of State collaborate with lawmakers described as, so the Nigerian Religious Freedom and Accountability Act is what we started talking about yesterday. And we had talked about some of the provisions that were included in that act. The one that had to do with investigating certain people. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso's name was mentioned, as well as the MAC ban. Well, apparently, this bill also had some other provisions. One of them, the sponsors of the bill, are just Riley Moore, of course, being at the forefront, Chris Smith, Brian Mast, Mario Diaz-Balart, and Bill Huizenga. All five of them are sponsors. And these sponsors allege that Chinese mining companies operating in Nigeria have been paying protection money to Fulani militia, fueling local violence and security. And under the proposed legislation in this Religious Freedom and Accountability Act that was reintroduced, the Secretary of State, they're saying, will provide technical support to Nigeria aimed at reducing and ultimately eliminating militia-related violence, including through disarmament programs and comprehensive counter-terrorism cooperation. The bill is also calling for coordination with international partners such as France, Hungary, and the UK to advance religious freedom and peace. But concerning the link with Fulani militia and China, which they are alleging, we're going to look specifically at clauses 10 and 11 of the bill, which are directing that the Secretary of State should work with the government of Nigeria to counteract hostile foreign exploitation of Chinese illegal mining operations and that destabilizing practice of paying protection money to Fulani militia. As they mentioned Fulani militia particularly as being part of the problem and why we're having the violence that we're having in the country. So it's now about trying to cut off that link between what they have termed as illegal Chinese mining operations and the Fulani militia, who they are alleging they have been paying for protection. The legislation is also tasking the Secretary of State with determining whether certain Fulani ethnic militia qualify as foreign terrorist organizations. And the bill is referencing a 2023 report by the Times, which alleged that Chinese nationals in Nigeria's mining sector were indirectly funding militant groups in the northwest to secure access to mineral resources. And according to this report, some miners in Zamfara acted as runners for militant groups, raising concerns that Beijing could be indirectly funding terror in Africa's largest economy. Now, this bill, very controversial in the fact that it is naming names, certain names, and also trying to have some of these Fulani militant groups, as they've tagged them, being thoroughly looked into, investigated, and they're also proposing visa bans and sanctions and the like of them. The bill has not been passed, but if it is passed, it will represent a significant U.S. intervention in Nigeria's mineral sector and security landscape, linking foreign mining operations to militia activity and underscoring broader concerns about regional stability, counterterrorism, and governance. Now, when we talked about this yesterday, talking about the specific bill in question, we only focused on the names that were mentioned and all of that. But we're beginning to see that there is even a broader scope to it. And I don't know, should we be concerned? Because I think yesterday I had asked the question to say, there seems to be a particular insistence, especially by Riley Moore, to push for what they're calling religious freedom and accountability. But we're seeing that it's much broader than the conversation just about religious freedom. We're looking at insecurity in general, and we're beginning to see links that they have made, which I think should still be thoroughly investigated to see whether it can be proven or disproven, as the case may be. But we're beginning to see links, and China is being mentioned, Beijing is being mentioned, and all of that. What are your thoughts about this bill, first of all, and then everything that is being alleged here? Because there is the thing about giving out a particular perception. I think even before any of these investigations commence, there's that thing about the perception that has been created. And the U.S. is doing this via Riley Moore. What are your thoughts about this?
To begin with, if you recall this entire incident or events,
yes,
unfolded on the 30th of October, 2025, with the post by President Donald Trump on his Truth Social, raising concern about persecution of Christians in Nigeria.
Yes.
The next day, you saw the response from the Nigerian government, and then the next day he came gun blazing, the gun blazing remark. So since then, what looked like, you could say, tough diplomatic engagement, what would have perhaps turned into a bigger issue of altercation, finally, both Nigeria and the US had to come to a table and began a more diplomatic engagement. That's where they are now. They've set up bilateral commissions, especially on security. A few days ago, there are reports confirmed by AFRICOM Command. AFRICOM is African Command of the U.S. Army, or of the U.S. Defense, you could say Department of War.
Department of War, yes.
Department of War. So the entire idea is simple. They are somewhere in Stuttgart, Germany, because they are not, the headquarters is in Stuttgart, Germany. The idea is to look at U.S. interests, security interests across Africa. That's why it's African Command. I think at the moment they have a base. They used to have a base in Agadez, Niger. They had 2 bases there in Agadez. And then, but because of the recent, crisis or the coup in Niger, they've shut down those two bases. But they are somewhere they have locations in Ghana and Equatorial Guinea. So, but now, where does Nigeria fall in now? The idea is you have the insurgents, you have all kinds of security issues, because it's a security crisis in Nigeria that attracted the attention of the U.S., especially in the Middle Belt, where the minority Christian populations were under attack over several times. So what the U.S. intends to do from what has been going on is simply to engage and address those issues. And that engagement is ongoing. I'm sure Riley Moore, a couple of U.S. delegations from the United States have already been here several times in Nigeria. So Chris Smith, who is the chairman of the House subcommittee on Africa, you saw they've held several public hearings around these issues. And presentations were made. I mean, the last were held about a few weeks ago. I think about a week ago. That was the last time the committee had a public hearing. I think that was last week. There was a public hearing by the committee. So the entire issue, you recall, at the moment when President Donald Trump declared Nigeria a country of particular concern, that it was supposed to be a bill go to the U.S. Congress for some debate and all that. But because as at that time, the government of the U.S. was there was a shutdown. So the executive had to take, that initiative without going through the Congress. That's essentially what happened. So if you recall, President Donald Trump in one of his public statements had called out Riley Moore's, Chris Smith, do so and get back to me, including Ted Cruz for the U.S. Senate. So if you follow those developments, so this is like a combination. They're all part of that entire development. So where are we now? Where we are now by the bill is trying to say, look, before Nigeria can be removed from the CPC list, these are the indicators that must be met by Nigeria before they can get off this hook. This is like setting up milestones.
Okay.
Sort of political milestones, social milestones, economic milestones, and security milestones. So you could say these indicators must be met, this must happen, and the other. So that's what the bill is trying to do. accountability simply means, look, we're going to set milestones you must meet before you can get off this CPC status. What has happened in the past when Nigeria, under President Muhammadu Buhari, when Nigeria was placed under CPC list, was the executive simply, through the Secretary of State, took a decision to take Nigeria off. There was no process of trying to find out, has Nigeria met some milestones? Yeah, what are they? Why should we sort of providing a rationale? All you had was lobbyists sit there in Washington, try to say, look, get us out. Usually, if you have a democratic government in place in Washington, it's a lot easier for Nigeria to get whatever they need. But if you have Democrats like we have in Donald Trump, he said, no, it's going to be like an exam. You must pass class 1, class 2, class 3 before you get off of the list. So perhaps that's why this is coming. What it means is that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, can't just sit in his office and say tomorrow and say, I am taking out Nigeria out of the CPC list. It's not going to happen. Okay. That's essentially what it is. So the bill is like saying, look, there must be a process to get Nigeria out of this. So they must meet every part of the indicators we've set out, every part of the milestone we've set out for them to meet. But again, on the part of Nigeria, how should they be responding to this? Because I haven't heard any response from Nigeria, or do they want to root their response diplomatically? Unlike before, when you see a lot of political actors, including presidential aides, responding publicly. Perhaps because there is now some sort of a platform for addressing some of these issues. Even though whatever we say or don't say wouldn't affect this bill, the bill is that of the United States Congress. And I'm sure the moment he comes to the table of President Donald Trump, he will sign it. There's no doubt about it. So, but again, on our part, what we need to do, perhaps get back, even as a country, and begin to say, what are the indicators that this bill is trying to set out for us to continue in having this relationship? Because now, so what would have resulted into a broken relationship was somehow managed towards setting up a bilateral engagement between Nigeria and the United States, which has been ongoing. I think 2 weeks ago or thereabout, there was a Assistant Secretary of State at the State Department of State for Africa visiting Nigeria as part of his African tour. So that engagement had somehow ended what would have been a more frosty relationship. So what we may need to do now, if you ask me, very simple things. Look at what indicators are these bills setting for us on how to get out of PC, because we need to get out of it, because it has a way of, helping us in terms of our reputation, generally, because the US has a way of, when they get in on your case, that becomes, and like you saw what happened in Caracas a few days ago with Nicolas Maduro. So we need to get back and begin to look at some of these issues raised. Because it's not about getting lobbyists, but rather about looking at those facts and say, okay, they say there's illegal mining by the Chinese in the northwest, Zamfara precisely, because that's where you have a whole lot of that mining activities going on. When people are doing illegal mining, they don't have state protection. So what do? They now resort to
local protection.
Not even local, to non-state actors. And if you do a study of the political economy of extractive industry across the world, whether it's mining, whether it's fishery, whatever it is, it has a way of coming with violence. Because one is that a lot of people will be interested. There's so much money in that system. It generates some sort of economic activities. And a value chain. So the entire value chain becomes, if it's not properly managed, that's why you have Ministry of Solid Mineral Development. So to get in there, because if you have people doing extraction or mining or playing within that industry would have been properly licensed. What does license do? License is simply KYC. That's what license does. We want to know who is mining, who is he, where does he come from, can we hold him accountable? Because you can set out guidelines. But because these guys are illegally mining, so what they need to do, most times they will collaborate with the local non-state actors. And that has a way. So if you pay non-state actor A today, and tomorrow non-state actor B shows up, because either he has broken away from that former group, you also have to pay him. So it becomes a chain of you pay. But if it was a licensed mining, company, you could have the state provide security for that mining company. So that's where it works. But again, you have sorts of lands, space that are ungoverned. So if you have such whatever, because part of the crisis with the security in Nigeria is simply ungoverned spaces, whether forest, whether sorts of empty lands or whatever it is. If you followed it carefully, if you allow ungoverned spaces to fester, you're going to have crisis.
Okay.
I mean, if you take a good study is think about DRC, just do a deep dive on Democratic Republic of Congo, highly mineral resourced area, but the crisis is unending. Why? Because you have a lot of ungoverned spaces. So I think the issue or the allegation around Chinese illegal mining is something the government of Nigeria should take a deep dive on and say what happened, how did it happen, where did it come from, and then how do we curb it. It's not simply to dismiss it, but rather to investigate it and get to the root of the matter and then get it sorted out. And if, for instance, over the next couple of weeks or months, we get it sorted out, we can tick it and say we have gotten this sorted out. And these are the mechanism or framework we've put in place towards solving it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, that should be the way to go. If I work for government now, what I should have done is get this bill, dissect it, and then pick the key issues raised in terms of what I should do. And then begin to say, you could have a graph where you have economic issues, religious issues, identity issues, just have those subheads. It's not to live in denial, but rather to identify them and then begin to find out, are there issues we need to perhaps design an engagement framework towards tackling? Are there issues we could perhaps increase security presence in order to solve? Are there issues that, look at issues that are within your that you can manage? I mean, in development, we talk about low-hanging fruits.
Yes.
Get those ones sorted out, and you can get back to the US and say, we have done this, we have done the other one. You could come from what they call ground truthing. Ground truthing is a visit, the physical visit of those places where things were said to have been done. Take them there, they get through it, and that's how to proceed. It's not to begin to get lobbies, because it's about things that are realistic, it's about things that are verifiable, and it's about things that are evidential.
Okay. Which sort of takes me back to something that I said yesterday concerning this bill. There is the responsibility that weighs heavily on the Nigerian government to investigate whatever these clauses that the bill is proposing, do their due diligence, and then come up with a way to act. But some would look at this particular report now, this particular clause here, and say, why is it targeted at the Chinese, for example? Are the Chinese the only people that have been found to do illegal mining in Nigeria? Why is Beijing specifically mentioned? Aren't there other reports that show that other foreign nationals, and in some instances African foreign nationals that are not Nigeria, tied to illegal mining in Nigeria? I'm looking at a report about an investigation in late 2025 that revealed that while some European-linked firms hold licenses, they have been accused of legal/illegal blurring, such as blasting in prohibited residential zones and violating community development agreements, both in Kaduna and Abuja. Maybe they may not be as notorious, but you have some reports that show other foreign nationals other than China or Chinese are involved. So wouldn't you expect that if the U.S. is trying to mention some of these acts, or rather these clauses, and they're mentioning countries, that it should be from a broader perspective as opposed to mentioning China alone? I'm also looking at, they're linked to broader economic crimes. This may not necessarily be a Fulani militia linked thing, but I'm seeing EFCC arrested a group of 15 Filipinos and one Indonesian earlier in 2024 because they were involved in illicit resource extraction. Reports from the International Crisis Group and Nigerian mining journals have also noted the involvement of Indian traders in illicit middleman economy. So that's why I'm asking, why the mention of China, do you think?
The point is that it's not the responsibility of U.S. to secure Nigeria. It's a responsibility of the Nigerian government.
Mm-hmm.
So if an outsider had said, look, you have so and so, please could you take a look at your shirt, it's dirty. I mean, it's your responsibility, go to the mirror and check. It's not his responsibility to ensure that your clothes are washed and ironed. It's his responsibility. But what he has done is say, oh, your clothes are ruffled. Please, could you do a check?
Okay.
Yeah, it's saying U.S. should do this. It's not their responsibility. Perhaps they could have looked at the scale at which the Chinese company allegedly are involved in illegal mining. Let me tell you, I think
it's just I think here it's not just illegal mining, but illegal mining in connection to Fulani militia, because they have particularly named Fulani militia.
The Fulani militias would have appeared because the area or the location where these minings are going on are ungoverned territories. Because a miner who do not have a license cannot be mining along Kubwa Road. Because people are likely going to see him, and somebody is likely going to stop and say, please, what are you doing? What permissions do you have? Can I see your permit? But these guys would go to a place that is some sort of, you could say, hard to reach area and start these activities. And then the non-state actor appears and say, please, I'm going to protect you, so pay me protection fees. And he pays that A, B turns up tomorrow, C turns up tomorrow, D turns up. So before you know it, either there's a clash amongst the groups, that's one, or he keep paying everybody who shows up.
Okay.
Because he needs to secure his illegal business. You know, these are key, these are very practical ways. Someone without a permit, a mining permit, cannot be in a place that is conspicuous. He's going to go to a hard-to-reach area where he thinks, maybe by his geological survey, there are some minerals deposit there and start mining.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I think the most important job of the Ministry of Solid Mineral, it's, first of all, get back, do we have data of all the mining sites in Nigeria? Do we have a geological data survey information of every single site in Nigeria and say, here you get this mineral, in the other place you get the other one? So part of the problem is on the part of the government. I'm not sure they have taken that intentionality to do this survey, have that information, and then find out how to secure those places. And if you're giving licenses, and then monitor the licensed operators.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are a whole lot of issues on our part we haven't done, because that's why someone sits in Washington and now calls us out and say, hey, can you look to the mirror? Your shirt is wrongful.
Okay.
I mean, it's that shows we haven't done what we're supposed to do in the first place.
All right, let's quickly take a look at some of the other stories so that we can open up the phone lines as quickly as possible. Going to the National Assembly now, where there was a joint sitting of the Senate and House of Representatives Mines and Steel Development Budget Defense session ongoing. There's been a lot of that happening in the last couple of days, I believe, some of these sessions, some of them revealing some very scary things. I don't know if you saw concerning the budgets allocated to certain ministries. Ministry of Health, for example, what happened with them where they had only about 36 million of their over 200 billion.
For capital projects.
Yes. I think there's been a session as well with the Ministry of Works. That one also, I think, happened today, and it became something else, but we can't get into that. Let's just quickly look at this one right now with the Minister of Steel and Development, Shuaib Audu. And what happened is that a heated exchange ensued over the funding and development of the Ajaokuta steel plant during this joint session. Apparently, during the session, Senator Natasha Akpotiuduaghan compared the steel's plant funding needs with other federal projects, including the 750-kilometer coastal road, which has a projected cost of 15 trillion. She said, and I quote, "The projected cost of the coastal road is 7 times what Ajaokuta steel requires. What is the government's real intention in reviving this plant, which has been in a comatose state for years?" The senator also criticized the committee for holding meetings and engaging with the media, which she said had produced minimal impact in reviving the plant. She added that during Audu's 3 years as minister, the committee has repeatedly debated the best model for advancing the Ajaokuta Steel Committee. She also referenced the 2019 bilateral agreement between Nigeria and Russia, under which $1.45 billion was reportedly pledged for the steel plant. And she cautioned the minister against misleading Nigerians by misrepresenting the agreement. She said we should not lie to Nigerians, and we have people that we're responsible to. A claim which Mr. Audu rejected, saying they are not lying to Nigerians, and he took exception, explaining that the bilateral agreement had stalled due to international sanctions imposed on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. And, of course, the Russian government and Russian Federation are under severe sanctions in the international financial market. So, according to him, the transaction cannot move forward. These are not just mom-and-pop shops, he said. We conducted due diligence all the way to the foreign ministry before signing the international MOU. So there was this back and forth over funding and conversations around the plan, so much so that the session had to be adjourned by Senator Patrick Ndubueze before Akpotiuduaghan could ask further questions. Now, Ajaokuta Steel Company, which we know is a state-owned steel mill in Nigeria, in Kogi State, it was envisioned in 1979 as an integrated steel plant that could make Nigeria self-sufficient in steel production, support industrialization, and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. And even though the plant structures were mostly built, the external infrastructure such as rail links, road networks, and port access were never finished or maintained. And apparently without this, it's extremely hard to bring in raw materials and moved finished products. Now, experts speaking on this project say that it's faltered not simply because of money, but because successive governments failed to consistently prioritize it, leading to policy reversals, shifting plans, and neglect, which probably is one of the things that made Senator Natasha ask the question, why is government intent to revive it? I mean, to an extent, you would expect that given the potential it has, government would want to revive it. But then there's also the concern about how much has been poured into it and why there doesn't seem to be adequate follow-up. And that's why you had this back and forth between her and the minister, who she has called out for his performance, especially concerning everything that has to do with the plant in the last 3 years. What are your thoughts on this?
My key response is Natasha and Minister Shuaib Abubakar Audu are simply perhaps trying to reenact their Kogi politics, which I think is a very miniature issue in this. That's one. It's not very important. I have taken time in the last 2 decades to study the politics or geopolitics of steel, the political economy of global political economy of steel. The Ajaokuta steel, as it were, if you ask me today,
yes,
no matter how much you put in there, may not get anywhere. Absolutely. They know. People in the system should know this. But everybody keep pretending. The point is that if you had built a plant in 1979, what technology did you use in 1979? That technology is still the current technology we are using today. If I need to set up a new steel company today, what will I be doing? Would I adopt the same model? That's the question. So over time, things have changed. Yeah, and because we hadn't even started, so we can't even run, not to talk of, we can't walk, not to talk of running. That's one. Then again, if you recall, when Donald Trump came in the first time was elected in 2016, he took over 20th of January 2016. The first thing he did was to ban importation of steel into America and raise the tariff. And there was a global outcry from Russia to EU, to Japan, to South Korea, and what have you. Because steel is the key thing around development. That's what propels science and tech. It's actually steel. Whatever you're going to produce, manufacturing is still based across the world. So the point is that as at the time we conceived Ajokuta Steel, what was it? The first conception of Ajokuta, of a steel company in Nigeria, was in 1958. It was a World Bank report written in 1958, but later had to be, actualized during the Civil War. during the Civil War, Russia incidentally got involved with supply of arms to Nigeria. That led to their trying to have some sort of a part in the Nigerian economy. It was at that point that a steel was promised to them. You're going to have that steel company sited in Nigeria. Russia was not playing any part in the Nigerian economy before 1967. The facts are there. So the second question is, what you remember, part of the thing that affected our steel company is the Cold War. Cold War also played a key role. The Cold War between the West and the East, represented by the former USSR. At this point, what is the structure? If we had begun this steel in 1979, that's over 40 years ago. Where are we? What have we put in there? What is the current technology of running a viable steel company? We had Alaja, we had Jos, we had Katsina, we had Oshobo, but they were still rolling mills. They were not as big as what you had conceived in Ajokuta.
Yeah.
So is it possible to sell it off to someone? Attempts have been made. In fact, 2 attempts or thereabouts during privatization exercise. The people who bought it, how come they pulled out? There was an Indian company at a point that bought Ajokuta, I think under President Obasanjo, that indicated interest, and the sales were done. So what happened? How come they pulled out? So have we done some sort of assessment to say, that the steel, Ajokuta steel, what is its status? What is its state? Can it be revived so that you're not putting money into a bottomless pit? It's like Ajokuta is just like the refineries that we've done several series of turnaround. So before you do a turnaround or before you say, let me invest, so the first thing you ask, what is the state of that company? Is it a scrap? If it's a scrap, what should I do?
Isn't that what Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was trying to do by taking on the Minister of Steel?
No, she simply said...
Because first of all, you need to acknowledge a few things. Her concerns around it and the questions that she was asking, you can sort of categorize into 3. First of all, she criticized the ministry for not sharing the details of the recent MOU with foreign partners. She questioned the due diligence of the deal, specifically noting that she had to rely on third-party information regarding which partners were providing technical expertise versus financing. And then the second thing which she did was basically, again, like I said, compare the government's zeal for other massive projects with their sort of like lack of interest with the steel mill. I said the steel mill, the steel plant.
Yeah.
And it was important that she did this. I think it was important that she did this because apparently the 2026 budget proposal for Ajaokuta is approximately 6.69 billion, most of which is set to go into personnel costs, salaries for workers at a plant that is pretty much moribund rather than actual repair. So you're having this joint session.
Yeah, what should I do? If you ask me if I'm an advisor to government, shut it down. You don't need it. Because why would you invest 1979 to date is how many years? Even if you had opened an ice fish shop, if Nigeria has decided to invest in a trawler that gets ice fish from the Atlantic Ocean, we would have made more money. Yeah, so it shows you that's why I say this is scrap. So get people who are playing in the steel industry and say, please, can you take this scrap off us?
Interesting.
Because the technology would have been moribund. In fact, there's no need keeping it.
I see.
For me, it's a waste.
I mean, I can't blame some people who are thinking perhaps there's still something that can be done. And just like I said, experts who weighed into the matter said it's not a funding matter. It is a matter about interest and perhaps, if you will, political will by a successive government to ensure that the place does pick up. So if you're constantly budgeting for it, then I believe as the legislature, as members of the legislature, you should be able to ask certain key questions, which she was doing to the point that I think she was, according to the news reports, at some point it was like some moved to silence and then she had to walk out.
The steel company is located in her constituency.
Yes, it is. And she has a duty to be able to...
Let me give you an example. There's a practical thing that happened a few weeks ago in Abia. There's Star Paper Mill, owned by the late Chief Nana Carlo, the first paper convertible company in Nigeria, set up in the early 80s. And the company went down. Abia State government decided to buy it off from Ancon. And what they are saying now, they are looking for a company that would need investors to take it off so that it doesn't become a responsibility of the state government. So what I will advise the federal government, sell off the steel company. But again, nobody has indicated interest, showing you that it's a scrap. That's one. Two, it's also possible investors will look at it and say, look, how much am I going to put in here before it can work? So the investor will do his cost-benefit analysis. And if he does it, this is not bankable, he walks away. But at the moment, the international sanction against Russia is also a possibility. Could also be one of the key reasons why it's not happening. Because Russia, are constrained across the world because of the Ukraine war that by, I think, next week will be entering the 4th year.
I think it's interesting that we keep going back to that as a possible constraint for why we've not seen anything happen on that plan. Given that the Russia-Ukraine war was barely, how many years ago now since it started?
No, the fourth year will start by next week.
Exactly. So between 1979 and post-Cold War up until the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, which we're now using as the constraint, what happened? What happened?
No,
why didn't we see any execution?
No. It's the geopolitics.
I see.
Of steel, global geopolitics of steel.
All right.
Political economy of the steel industry globally.
Okay. We need to go for the news, but just to chip in here very quickly that other lawmakers, such as Senator Issa Jibrin, suggested during the session that Nigeria should stop waiting for foreign saviors and instead approach the Debt Management Office for local funding to revive specific production lines in the phases. But let's go for the news. We do have one more story. Perhaps you can just touch on it very quickly before we open the phone lines. It's still the big three on Hard Facts on 95.1 Nigeria Info. And we'll be back after the news with Joy Berry.
With all the stories that make the news,
The headlines,
the captions, the breaking news,
details of the stories.
let's talk about these and more
On 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
on Let's Talk. Welcome back to Hard Facts.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back. Still your number one talk station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. In the next 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, I'm so sorry, but bear with me. Let's touch on the final story, and then we will open up the phone lines. I see the phone lines are already blinking, and I'm eager to get to your thoughts and contributions as well on everything we've shared so far. Now, recall, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, that a former Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, came out alleging that he'd be arrested soon by the federal government, claiming that recent developments in the case that 4 people who he said he worked with in Kaduna had been arrested. Based on those developments, he had indicated that he may be what he termed the next target. He suggested that the arrest of his associates signaled possible action against him, and his comments are coming amid the arrest of ongoing trial of former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, who, in the news today, apparently the judge handling that case has withdrawn from handling it. What's the word? He recused himself from that case. Details on that are still developing, but that's all we can say about that. But you've seen, some of these, would I say, members of the previous administration and a few other political people alleging some kind of political witch hunt, which they linked to maybe their defection or their opposition stance against this current administration. So El-Rufai, perhaps speaking towards that, was making that statement that he could be arrested. Well, we can say for a fact that indeed there was an attempt to arrest former Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, today. Muyiwa Adeke, a media advisor to the former governor, disclosed this in a series of posts and videos on social media. He said El-Rufai was returning from Cairo, Egypt, where he has been, I think, since November last year, when he was approached by security operatives. And Adeke said the operatives approached the governor as he disembarked from his flight and sought to take him into custody. According to him, the former governor declined to follow them, insisting that he would not honor the request without a formal invitation. And Adeke alleged that the security personnel seized the former governor's passport during the encounter. In his words, he said they snatched his passport from an aide. Now, while it is unclear if the DSS or the EFCC were behind the move to arrest the former governor, the video posted by Adeke showed an official or fan attempting to prevent people from recording the incident. And now, all of this, again, following conversations around El-Rufai, who's been very, very vocal. I mean, in the last couple of days or so, he's made some very, very strong statements about the opposition, the governors who have ported over to the other side and all of that, and also his relationship with the current president of the country. At one point, he said he was friends with the president, but he was known to the president, if you will, but not entirely friendly. But since then, he has fallen out with the president, if you will, and there have been talks by him, sort of being persecuted. What do you think now with this current breaking news that we have? Conversations around what you are seeing, even with the opposition government, because I think it was something that he also mentioned when he was speaking about the governors who have ported. Said something along the lines of most of the governors who are porting, they are doing it more for survival, or more because of undue influence, more than even survival. What are your thoughts? Do you think there's any merit to thoughts of conversations of persecution of opposition by this current government as alleged by El-Rufai?
Traveling a familiar road. I won't say unfamiliar. If you recall, under the former president, the late president Umar Musa Yaradua, El-Rufai had to go into political exile and didn't return until 2010.
But he did say that this particular trip he made to Cairo was not political exile.
I'm just giving an example. Yeah, that El-Rufai is on a familiar road. In fact, he had to go on a political exile until the demise of the former president, when the former president Umar Musa Yaradua was sick and in the hospital, and perhaps he knew the president might not likely return, and he came back to Nigeria. He understands the politics of opposition. You remember in 2011, he partnered with the late President Muhammadu Buhari, and they set up a Congress for Progressive Change (CPC) that finally became part of the coalition that formed the APC. So he understands how to play opposition politics very well. Prior to then, he was a Director General of BPE as well as the Minister of a Federal FCT under the PDP government of President Olusegun Obasanjo. But he had to leave at a point, joined the opposition, and had been in opposition.
Yeah.
And suddenly they formed a government in 2023. A few months after that, he moved out and is back to opposition. So he understands the politics of opposition very well, and he knows how to also set agenda. If he thinks, look, they might likely come after me, he knew how to raise that media interest and say, look, they will soon come after me.
But what about his claims of persecution?
For me, he's walking on a familiar road. You know, when you're walking on a familiar path, it comes so natural and easy. So he understands the politics of Nigeria. Give it to El-Rufai. You might not like him. You might not like his politics or his policies, but he knows what to do at any point in time to get what he wants. So are they likely going to arrest him? I don't know. We are watching.
There has been an attempt. So I think that part is pretty much clear.
Yeah.
If not for his refusal, there would have been an arrest. But the question is, and maybe just take the next minute or so to answer this. Do you think there's any merit to his claims of persecution just because he's in opposition?
Well, he's back to Nigeria. He's alleging that his political associates are being persecuted. So is he the next on the line? Or is there anything they have said that would implicate him or whatever it is? You know, politics is each day you wake up, whatever comes up, you take it in and then move on to and wait till the next day. Let's see now he's back, what is going to unfold over the next couple of days. But I think he has made up his mind, as it were, to become an opposition leader, an opposition figure, and he knows how to play it, and he has played it before. The records are there. You could check it. So he's on a familiar path or journey, if you may.
All right, let's open up the phone lines. Let's open the phone lines and get your other contributions to the matter. Again, the question, I think maybe we'll get your thoughts on it from the listeners on the three stories shared. Any merit to thoughts of persecution? Because if it's things that the former governor of Kaduna State has said, we said before, he's very vocal. There have been a number of reports that I've seen from his last interview that I don't not even say some of the things that he was alleged to have said in that interview. They're very strongly worded things, of course. But is that enough reason to move to arrest him? Or is there some other reason perhaps that will require an arrest? Or is it, as he's saying, just because we haven't joined or because I left, And then we'll look at the other stories as well. 0700951 0000, 0809-597-4869, and on WhatsApp 0809-993-0137. Let's talk. Good afternoon. Apologies. Sorry about that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma.
Welcome.
To me.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Okay. Not to call from Niger State. Choose someone to for the master.
Go ahead.
I guess we have had you. the Nigerians will sell Ajakuta as a scrap. Are you telling us that this is the machine inside or from the land, you understand, to the structure, to the machine? You understand? Or is it that the Nigerian government cannot manage anything at all apart of that? You understand? To me, I think some of the money they have put in there, I think they should return some of those money. If they know that this refinery or Ajakuta cannot work, you understand? And they have been budgeting for this money. But when they know that this will not work, and the people you give this contract should return this money. So that if at all we can start again, we started building new refinery and new Ajakuta, you understand? You can never transfer land, and land doesn't spoil. You understand? So that we start from somewhere. That's my take. Thanks, and God bless Nigeria.
All right, thank you, Donatus from Niger State. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Somi.
Welcome.
My name is CJ.
Go ahead,
Hello?
sir. Go ahead.
Please, talking of what China, illegal mining in China, this thing did not start today to me. Early 90s, if our guests can recollect, when the Shekiri are fighting with Urubu are fighting with ethnic groups, they are fighting each other. Share, Ajib, Tota, they are serious mining the crude oil in Nigeria, sending it away. Till 2000, when Nasare de Kobo, Takutome and Tompolo, they realized they are killing themselves. They started kidnapping the Oyibo. All those people that are working oil that mining those crude oil. That's what solved that problem. Before Nigeria government realize that they are missing something. If not, I'm telling you that problem will not solve. You see what is happening in here? That when you remember when China said they are backing Nigeria, when US want to solve the problem, they said no, they are backing Nigeria. See, if you go to Dunkeru, go to all those Niger states in Zafara, they are kidnapping people everywhere all over Nigeria, but you can never hear say they kidnap China. You understand? As my guy says, powering the Fulani men and all that. If you go to Sabisa, all those areas, you see European, especially France, all this expensive mining, they are there mining. You see, what is killing Nigeria is that they fail to protect their people. Instead of the protecting of their people, they are protecting the all those especially France and Britain. They are the people that finished this country.
Okay.
From 1960 to now. They are the hand and foot. We thank God for US, especially Donald Trump. Honestly, it's good when you are eating something and you make those areas, make them believe that they belong on that place. But
all right.
France and Britain, they are not like that. They are the people that finish this country.
Okay.
Divide and rule.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I just have one question on what he said. Assuming we're going to told the France and Britain narrative. Yeah. How do you think they first came in? Don't you think they came in offering wonderful things in exchange for something else? No, just asking.
You recall Nigeria was a colony of Britain, and what even attracted the first British person who came to Nigeria was to explore for business opportunities. Suddenly, he found Spanish, Portuguese, people from other countries here. And he had to go back to Britain to ask the king, please, I will need a protection. That's how Nigeria started. I will need a protection for my business. And suddenly, the UK government at a point now felt, look, why don't we go over there? Perhaps it could become a colonial territory.
Again, like I said. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. The exact methodology might not be the same, or the exact reasons may not be the same, but the methodology seems the same to me. It all starts with interest, right? Yeah. And then there is a need to protect interest. Yeah. And absolutely. Then you now see the different narratives coming up. Yeah. And you said so, and that's why I came back to this whole France-Britain conversation. US, wherever AFRICOM or whatever, are looking to protect certain interests. It could be absolutely that because of the bilateral conversation or relationship they have with Nigeria, they would now get into the details and the nitty-gritty, and then you start seeing religious persecution, and then you start seeing the rest of it come up. In the case of China, it's a case of critical minerals that are being exploited. And so they would name names for the government to investigate or what have you. But the goal is to, how would I put it now? Remove those people from other nationals. And then what then that happens? The U.S. says, I will offer protection. Because the plan is to work with the Nigerian government to offer protection from all agreements. Of these. So it still comes down to that. I just wanted to make that point. Let's get back to the phone lines. Hello, good afternoon. Hello? Is anybody there?
Somi.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon. I greet your dog.
Thank you, go ahead.
Mr. Gideon Boyson. This is Mr. Gideon Boyson from Gwagwalada.
All right, sir.
My brother, this feeding bottle system, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir, go ahead.
Yeah. This feeding bottle system of government we are running cannot take us anywhere. There is no state that doesn't have mineral resources, that doesn't have something to produce. It is high time we go into regional government. Let every state go and work on their resources and remit percentage to the center. There are a lot of things within this country. Everybody's eyes is in oil. Every month, governors run to Abuja to come and share oil money. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello? Hello? All right, let's take a few messages. Just to check in with Samuel from Pape. He says it's not too clear, it's cracking. Samuel, let me know if the sound has cleaned up. And if not, maybe I can refer to the social media, what they call it, the app. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Kenneth from Madala. The American government has better information on terrorism in Nigeria than we, the private citizens. You see, they don't want to listen to our government or officials because we are living in denial here. The military and police are compromised. No government official is thinking of arresting those behind killings in Nigeria. They only arrest the foot soldiers and later release them in the name of de-radicalization. It shows our government and our officials are not serious about ending terrorism. Shemezi Nwafo from Gwagwalada says, good afternoon to your guest. We can now see how and what made Nigeria backwards. Many who are shouting Nigeria won't just drive. The Ajax Steel Company has been vandalized by the Indians and now it's as good as scrap. Good afternoon, Somi, and good afternoon to your guest. For me, I don't think Ajax Steel can work because I can't see any seriousness from the part of the government. A company that was put in place since 1979 remains moribund up until today, and we're still expecting it to work. I want to believe that we're just joking. I don't think El Rufai is above the law. If there's any reason to arrest him, he should be arrested, and heaven won't fall. If there's any reason... Okay, in Nigeria, we celebrate people who do not deserve celebration. We praise the real enemy of the state while they're supposed to be prosecuted. Certainly, El Rufai and his likes are now parading themselves as saints and Messiah. With that one, let's see. Afternoon Nigeria info. The main plan is to arrest El Rufai and hold him down until after 2027 elections in order for him to not work against the APC in the 2027 elections. And that's Gabriel from Lugbe. Let's go back to the phone lines. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Ajola Victor from Gisalagi.
Go ahead, please.
It is very sad that we have a steel company in Ajakuta, a big company like that, and it's not functional. The one in Osogbo, I don't think it's working too. The one in Alaja and Kasina, I don't think they are working. Looking at how government has been pumping money into that industry, into that steel industry, they will not work because of the cabals. The cabals are there. Some people are there, they are just collecting salary and allowances, and nothing is being rolled out there. You see, these cabals are basically making their cool money from imported steel. So therefore, they will not allow that steel company to work. We have them in the oil sector, we have them in the power sector. So the best thing is to sell it to serious investors who want to buy it. and revive that coupling. If we continue to put put it in the hand of government, it will not work. Because you see now, look at Nasalsa and the minister. They are from Kogi, and now they cannot cooperate and work together to move that thing forward. So these people, they will continue to play policy. The budget they defend on every year is just to pay salary and to pay allowances and for the big boys to take their own share. So that still company will not work until they sell it off. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I mean, he mentioned something which was discussed off air as some sort of a concern as well, and that is interests that may not allow it to work because they want to be able to, I don't know, benefit from it somehow. So let's throw Mr. Adiola's Victor's line of it is the cabal. What makes us think that even if they sell it, this same interest will allow it to work? I mean, selling it takes it out of the hand of the government, yes, but if these cabals are so powerful and so almighty, can't they still prevent it from working even after it's sold to foreign interests? And then also, there's also the conversation about, was it the Indians you mentioned who it was sold to at some point in time, who one of the listeners is accusing of turning it into, or vandalizing it.
Cannibalizing it.
Something like that. Yeah. Isn't it still the same concern that we have? I mean, I worry really and truly for us, because the same conversation, is had also to some extent about the refineries. How can a group of people be so powerful that they would cause something as huge as these national assets, and even the Kogi is state-owned, I dare say it's some sort of a national asset to us as well. How will this few group of people be so powerful that they're benefiting from it to the detriment of Nigerians, that there will be so much put into it for it to not work? Because for me, the danger is that when we continue to push these narratives to say, oh, this cabal or this person or this interest and what have you, we end up pretty much throwing away some of the biggest things that would have made our country advance at levels to which we probably have not come to fully understand just yet. And there's also the same narrative that you see also being paraded, if you will. Anything that does not seem to be working, sell it. Anything that does not seem to be working, sell it. I fear that we told this part so much so that it prevents us from actually looking at some of the key issues. Has it really not worked because of operational capacity or because of funding? How about address it from that point? It reminds me of subsidy. Oh, subsidy is not working. Subsidy is not working. Subsidy is corrupt. And without addressing the corruption, you throw away the subsidy. For me, it's like throwing away the baby with the bathwater. But what do I know? Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take more calls and we'll continue.
Take the next step in your career with a postgraduate